The Blues are the talk of the town at the moment, and whilst a lot of the talk is around the future of Michael Voss, I wanted to take a look at the future of the list and why there are some advantages to Carlton ripping the bandaid off circa Richmond last year. Should they go all in on a strip-it-back rebuild? How could they do it? And are there some realistic options that, with or without a new coach, could breathe newfound optimism into Carlton fans? Let's talk about it. So the big reason why the push for youth is going to be so strong in the conversation around the Blues is going to be because they are 8th in the competition for age and 8th in the realm of experience going into this year. And they, of course, are not in the 8 and playing not great football, to be honest. Now, do I find it a touch disrespectful that losing to North is the catalyst for this conversation to keep on heating up? Potentially a little bit, but I also understand they beat them by like 82 points when they met on Good Friday. That is quite a decline. And yes, it is no secret that Michael Voss per winning percentage is Carlton's best coach this century, but that's kind of like being the best looking bloke at a burn ward right now, so I don't know how much credence you want to give that. And whilst, yes, they did make a prelim final a couple of seasons ago, you don't judge your self-worth based on what you did 2 years ago. Surely it's usually about what you're doing now and what you can do for the future. So let's start with the most obvious move in the world, and that is TDK going to St Kilda. 1.7 million a year is insane, and if it is seen that Carlton and St Kilda are on relatively the same path in terms of bottom 6, bottom 8-ish sides, why wouldn't you take the coin? Now, I've done a bit of research on this because Carlton do not have their first round pick this year. In fact, their pick hand so far is 35, 45, and 63. So we are building from a bleak base right now. However, we can fix that aggressively. Now, if TDK was to go, they would be getting band 1 compensation because of the 1.7 million. Even though they don't have their first round pick, from what I've understood from my reading, they would still get the pick after where they finished on the ladder. So if we're going off numbers now, Carlton get pick 10 if he leaves, which for 1.7 million is weird, but the compensation rules are just weird anyway, so that's fine. So pick 10, TDK leaves. Whether they're going to be hyper aggressive or not, I think that's going to happen. We can start there. We have a base, right? Considering that the TDK compensation pick cancels out the first round pick that Hawthorn have got because they just slid back one selection. So, could be worse. We could be finding some win-wins across the board of that trade, which is kind of ridiculous when you think about it. Now, I do want to make something perfectly clear here is that from here on out, all of the pick numbers are actually not attached to teams. They are just approximates, right? So if you go, my club's got that pick, Daz, they're not going to get involved in this trade. I'm not talking about you. I'm just using numbers because they're going to help tell this story. Cool? Awesome. So who are the other 2 blokes that are potentially on the chopping block that could get the currency in and are already talked about in trade talks? Circa Shea Bolton and Daniel Rioli, Harry Mackay and Sam Walsh. Now, Shea Bolton and Daniel Rioli, just between them, got pick 6, 2 picks in the teens, and pick 20. So if we are to believe now, 6 and 20 for Rioli was ridiculous. I know that. So let's assume that Carlton can get a top 10 pick, 2 picks in the teens for Harry and Sam. We can also assume that they probably would get a little bit more. Part of the reason that teams can trade 25, 26, and 27 assets this year is going to be a lot more manipulation over cherry on top, right? So we're doing this deal, we're haggling, we want another pick in there. We'll just take out 27 second, for example. I'm not saying necessarily in this trade, but we are going to see a lot more negotiations be around that, right? But again, let's assume that they are going to get those kind of assets because Shea and Daniel Rioli versus Harry and Sam, I would argue that Carlton should be getting more. But again, we're going to dial down the whole nitpicky side of things, I should say. Let's just do this by the numbers. So, the hyper-aggressive Harry, TDK, and Sam are all out. What would that look like and who would trade for them? Well, in terms of the clubs that could go after these players, again, This is going to be the bit where people in the comments get upset, but there is a list of clubs for Harry if you want it, and then we'll go over to Sam in just a second. Again, you can argue that your club may not want these guys, but it is what it is. You don't have to really get that involved in it. This is a Carlton-centric chat. So if all three of those players go, their draft hand, again, approximate number in terms of the picks, looks like pick 6, we're going to say, pick 10, 16, 18, 35, 45, and 63 that they've already got. Again, just work with me here. So what the hell can they do after this? Well, the first thing that I would be doing is acknowledging the fact that Cody Walker is going to be a top 5 pick next year. Therefore, your first in 26 means absolutely nothing. Circa Essendon with the Isaac Kako pick. They got Melbourne's first this year, which is looking like a win-win for both sides, to be honest. Xavier Lindsay for a top 5 pick this year. That could work out beautifully for both clubs. And of course, Essendon still got Kako. That's what I would be doing if I was Carlton. But instead of trying to get that pick to the 27 draft, again, we're trying to be hyper-aggressive here. Let's get that into this year's draft. Now, in terms of the club, and I know I said that I wouldn't do this, but I'm going to. Doing this with a club that's got academy picks is going to be useless. Trying to do this with a club that's got father-sons coming through, again, is going to be useless. You could go to Freo for this, like you could, because Toby 1 is going to be around the mark of that pick. You could, or a club like GWS to just go, hey, do you want another asset? Is the first round pick for GWS going to be better or worse than probably a top 8 pick next year? I think you could talk one of those clubs into that. And let's say they do that. Again, we're going hyper aggressive here, guys. So their 26th first round pick goes because they'll be able to match a bid for Cody Walker anyway. They'll figure it out. And they get yet another pick in the first round this year. So if we call that pick 14, you've got 6, 10, 14, 16, 18, 35, 45, and 63. Is that unrealistic? Again, there is a possible way you can get this done. This is not a case of I'm trying to grasp for straws here. And let's be honest, Harry Mackay for Ollie Florent might be awful. And I just have to hope, because I haven't seen the clip. The Jay-Z also threw other picks in there, and the graphics department at Fox absolutely stitched him up. I have to hope for that. And if you take into account that last year they drafted Jagger and they drafted Ben Camporeale, they've still got Cooper Lord and they've still got a midfield mix, Carlton don't need to prioritise a midfielder. Kind of like Richmond didn't really need to with Prestia, Hopper and Taranto. Now, they still did with the powerful unit of Lawler, even though he hasn't been playing full centre bounces, and they did get Josh Smiley. I understand that. It may not be the highest priority for the Blues. I'm thinking of this circa what North did with a Luke Urquhart type. Now, I know they took Finn O'Sullivan, but they have not been playing him as a midfielder. They could, Carlton now, be going after some guys that could rotate through the midfield, but may not. That's absolutely fine. But they definitely don't need a guy who can only play at the centre bounce. Now, what's awesome is because they need size and speed more than anything else, this is the draft to do that. Like, there could not be a better attributed draft for them to do this. Now, are they going to get the quality? Who knows, right? You're looking at how good Richmond's draft looks on paper 12 months in. You also look at what Essendon did in 20 with Perkins, Cox, and Reid. Reid is a home run, unfortunately not fit, but Perkins and Cox, again, Cox for injury reasons, Perkins for form reasons, are just not working out that much. You're also looking at what GWS got in the Jeremy Cameron deal. Those draft picks aren't exactly working out great either. So I know there's risk attached to this. The clubs that you were trading Harry and Sam to are going to get better quicker than you are. But if your reason for this is we don't have faith in our recruiting department, well, change your recruiting department. Ollie Greaves, Riley Onley, these kind of guys, Rory Wright, they're not going to be the ones you want. You don't want CBA players. They might end up being stars. I'm not denying that for a moment. But what is the point of doing all this hypothetical work and then just taking draftees that you can't really use all that well? When Taj Houghton comes in for the Tigers, he's going to be able to play half forward, rotate through the midfield. Sam Lawler, highly likely to do the same. Yes, they got Smiley as their one CBA only player, but everyone else that they took is either a tall, got a set position, or can rotate through the centre bounce. They are not going to be stuck versatility-wise, and Carlton can't be either. But you'd also be looking at guys like Sam Grill. You'd also be looking at Lockie Doverston for the small forward aspect, Sam Cumming, Hunter Holmes, Thomas Burton, these kind of guys. If you want to go taller, Aiden Schubert, Cody Curtin, Archie Ludowiecki, Mitchell Marsh, Liam Heatherton, Lewis Emmett, Taj Murray. You have got options, people. You're going to be able to replace Harry structurally. And yes, you've got Brody Kemp and these kind of guys, Mitch McGovern and all that can play that role. You've got Harry O'Farrell down back, so you don't need to go and draft a centre-half back. The best key defender who is going to play key defender all year is either Xavier Taylor, who is 191 centimetres tall, or the young boy Hay from Tassie, whose first name I can't remember off the top of my head. He looks a likely type. Are you going to spend a top 15, 18 pick on him? No. You could spend a 35 pick or around that mark like you did for Harry O'Farrell if you want to. You've got 35, you've got 45. If one of those, a key defender, is on the board and you semi-like him, bang, that's what that's for. No problem with that in the slightest. Could you also bunch up 35 and 45 and maybe move up to, say, like a 26, 27, 28 to take a guy that you really like? Hell yeah. But what could those picks look like, just as a hypothetical example that would be a really big win for them? Well, pick 6, Josh Lindsay, again, solves your halfback usage problem. Yay. Noah Hibbert-Hargreaves at pick 10, Aiden Schubert at pick 14 because he is the best contested marker in this draft. Lockie Doverston for your small forward aspect. He and Noah combining is going to be awesome. Cody Curtin at pick 18 because you're not really sure which end of the ground he can play at. Could he turn into a tall forward? Could he turn into a tall defender? Could you do like Daniel and stick him onto a wing? And Daniel's been doing really well on the wing. That could work as well. And then Tommy Burton, again, could solve your halfback problem. Lindsay could roll through the midfield if you wanted him to. I also would consider Hunter Holmes as a guy they should target here, or even a Sam Cumming. Neither of those two I don't think are going to be on the board at 35. But again, this is just an example. So in terms of what they could do, Richmond-esque, that's the way to go. Now, could they get away with being half aggressive? Not necessarily the full Richmond experience, if you will. Well, maybe. What if they only traded one of Mackay or Walsh? Now, I still definitely think they need to trade that 26 first and get into this draft. They just need to. And I still think TDK goes. Neither of those two things change. Now, if you come out of this draft and still keep Harry and Sam, okay, your draft hand looks a little bit better, but I just think they need to go over the top here a little bit more. I don't think they need to do a player-for-player trade either, by the way, in case that really doesn't blow up. But if it's one trade, you've still got TDK going in the 26 first up. You would be looking at an approximate draft hand if you were able to get the top 10 pick. You got 6, 10, 16, you're 35, 45, 63. If you get the one trade done, but it's the two late firsts and everything else stays exactly the same, then you're looking at pick 10, 13, 16, 18, 35, 45, 63. Could all of that work out? Well, yeah, it really. Could you do something with that? Of course you could. Which is better to do? That's actually too hard to say. You might have to look at the out-of-contract list and go, how many of these guys are we actually going to keep around for the long term, by the way? So you're looking at guys like Alex Chincotta, who did a really good job as a tagger, but do you need a tagger? Brody Kemp's going to be an interesting one. I don't think they keep Francis Evans. Motlop's going to be interesting whether they keep him or not because he just hasn't come on. I think you keep Matt Carroll. I think you keep McGovern. I think you keep Haynes. I think you keep Nick Newman. I would get rid of Orazio Fantasia, honestly. Doherty could become an insurance piece if he's happy to do that. I would be keeping Will White. So you're going to get a lot of list turnover, of course, and you are going to need a gluttony of picks for Harry and Sam because if I just do the math really quickly looking at my list here, you might be getting rid of 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5, 6 off that list, plus Harry and Sam, so you've got 8. So that might be, and TDK is 9. So 9 players go, you've only got 3 picks, 4 with the TDK bit. So if Harry and Sam go, you would need 4 plus the 2026 pick that you're rolling into 2025. That's quite a lot of manipulation. You would need a lot of things to go your way. I still like doing that, though. In terms of what I think they will do, it's hard to say. And if you are going to get a new coach, I think going the hyper-aggressive way is going to be the way to go. I really do. If you are going to keep Michael Voss, trading one of them, I think is still the way to go. Which one would you trade? Put them both on the market and see which one you can get the pick 6 for. So is the pick 6 going to be better than the 2 teenage picks? Absolutely. Especially in the compromised draft, you are going to get access to a player that you want at the top of your board quicker. So I like it. I think that Carlton need to go ultra aggressive the other way because topping up is not going to work. Who are you going to go and get? Josh Rochelle, Nick Watson, Cozzy Pickett, like these are the guys that for your small forward influence guys, Tom Papley, you could add to that list as well. They're not going to be available. They're just not. So what are you going to do? Lee Lee is probably going to be at St Kilda. You ain't getting him. What are you going to do? It's either be as you are or go to the draft. And if you are going to go to the draft, all I'm saying is don't do it 50-50. That's it. So what do you think, guys? Comment below. Let me know. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe to join the Daz Talks Footy family. I will see you in the next one, which is my June mock draft. Thank you so much for watching. See you then.